I was 20 years old for my first High Holy Days in Jerusalem. I was studying at Hebrew University for the year, and I learned that there was a Reformed congregation, Kol Nidre, having its first High Holy Day services in their new building. And so I made my way from Mount Scopus to the site there at the edge of Baca, only to find that there was no roof on the synagogue. It was just the concrete slab that had been laid. But the congregation was ecstatic. They gathered in folding chairs and they sang their hearts out. They were ecstatic to have that land granted to them. They remembered when ultra-Orthodox Jews had protested that a Reformed synagogue would be allowed to build there, and the municipal judge was so furious at the protest that he awarded the congregation even more land than originally had been allotted. And so the harmonies were joyful, and that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur really was when I fell in love with Reform Judaism and in Israel, Reform Zionism. It takes on its own flavor, its own color, its own tone. Those prayers were so sincere then, and I joined mine to theirs. I admit that throughout the years, I avoid giving the sermons that many of my Reform rabbinic colleagues give about bigotries among the ultra-Orthodox both here and in Israel. I believe in my heart of hearts that the job of any rabbi, the job of all Jewish leaders, is to teach and to model achdut, which is unity among the Jewish people. Our job is to draw us closer to one another, up and down Bathurst Street and across the ocean too. And especially on Yom Kippur, we want to show God our best. We want to show that the Jewish people is united and dressed in pure white and squeaky clean. But we know, Chatanu lefanecha, we have let one another down. God forbid we point fingers and draw lines in the sand between us and them, for that would be another kind of bigotry, and that is not for us. Tomorrow we will read from our Torah, "You shall not hate your kinsman in your heart. You must tell him when he has hurt you, but do not commit a sin on account of him. You must not take vengeance against him. You must not bear a grudge against one another." So it is written in what is called the Holiness Code. Any divisiveness among us would only weaken us as a people, God forbid. And neither are we able to remain blissfully ignorant of a real problem. There is a problem. We, the Jewish people, has a problem. We need to speak of it if we are to fix it. We need to name it so that we can address it. When personal bigotries are given power enough to shape policy, we must shine a bright light on it and clarify who we are as a people and who we are not. What we can tolerate and what we will not. What is a matter of opinion? What is a matter of personal religious expression? And what is a chilul Hashem? What is a desecration of God's name? When traveling to Israel, I delight in seeing, and I'm sure you've seen this, an Orthodox minyan that gathers at the back of the plane. Now, even though I know full well that my brothers there would not include me in that minyan, I cannot help but to delight in seeing faithful Jews of any stripe come together at any time in prayer. That is how overwhelming is my love for the Jewish people. It overwhelms other hurts, because that's what we do with family. We forgive certain flaws and failings. We quote-unquote agree to disagree because we are family. And you know as well as I do that Shalom Bayit, peace in the family home, overrides a lot of mishigas. And that's how it should be. But when I hear stories of those same Jewish brothers refusing to sit next to a woman, a Holocaust survivor, an observant woman, and they shame her publicly, holding up everyone on the flight, until she is forced by officials to change her seat, this is when I say, Chatanu lefanecha. We have sinned against one another. This is no longer a delightful example of Jewish diversity. In my opinion, it is no act of faith either, but it is a kind of idolatry. And therefore, it must be checked by fellow Jews. This is what we do for one another, for the sake of family. When Jewish brides and grooms have to travel off to Cyprus to be married civilly so that their Reform or conservative rabbi in Israel can stand with them at the chuppah, Chatanu lefanecha. When Orthodox synagogues get state funding and ours do not, Chatanu lefanecha. When Orthodox rabbis have state-funded salaries and less than a handful of Reform and conservative rabbis do, Chatanu lefanecha. When just 3 weeks ago the former chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel gives a public sermon calling Reform Jews worse than Holocaust deniers, and he said of us, quote, they have neither Yom Kippur nor Shabbat, they only want to desecrate what is holy. Chatanu lefanecha. Is what we are doing here on this Shabbat, on this Yom Kippur, a desecration? And when leaders of the Reform movement in Israel and in North America this year receive death threats with knives carrying their names on them, Chatanu lefanecha. Good people, we are in trouble, and we need to pay attention. I only trust this sermon to you because I know that your love of Israel runs deep, and it is unbreakable. I wish that I could say these incidents are rare, unusual, isolated, but they are not. Our congregational trip a year and a half ago, we brought with us Holy Blossom's treasured little Torah, just 16 inches high, called the Rebbe's Torah, more than 200 years old, from Germany. And it's called the Rebbe's Torah because it's so small, it could be carried in the Rebbe's pocket, and he could smuggle it across borders from town to town, so that he could bring Torah to the small villages, too small, too poor to own their own Torah. I often say to our children, if only this little baby Torah could talk, what stories would it have told? What stories might it tell us? What adventures has it seen? What courage did the Rebbe have? And we had to smuggle that Torah into the Kotel, so that our cantorial soloist, Lindy Rivers, could chant from it on Rosh Chodesh. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. A Jew should have to smuggle a Torah into a Jewish holy site? How is this possible? It is called the Wailing Wall because at that holy site the Jews have poured out their tears in prayer throughout the centuries. But today it is the wall herself who weeps. The Kotel weeps over how we have turned such a holy site into a battleground. Chatanu lefanecha. Women hiss at women for not covering their bodies from head to toe. Women spit at women for wearing a talit. Women blow high-pitched whistles to drown out the sound of Jewish women singing the Shema. Men throw chairs and worse at fellow Jews for passing a Torah from one to another. It is uncomfortable to hear these words, I know. And believe me, it is painful for me to say them out loud on such a holy day, in such a holy place. But as a lover of Israel and as your rabbi, I feel I must. For in any other country, we would call this what it is: anti-Semitism, Jew hatred. In any other country, we would demand police protection. In any other country, we would demand laws to protect our own religious freedoms. While in Israel, we are not yet protected from such discrimination and bigotry, and this has to change. For the sake of our vision for Israel, for the sake of our dream for an Israel all aglow with justice and faith, it has to change. This year marks significant milestones for the State of Israel. 100 years since the Balfour Declaration was declared in 1917, and 70 years since the establishment of the state in 1948, 50 years since the Six-Day War in 1967. For so many years, congregations like ours have worked to protect the body of Israel, to build up the physical strength of the State of Israel. This real need has always come first and foremost, and I know that our congregants have been there in small and significant ways to ensure the safety of the body of Israel. By purchasing Israel bonds, by giving to Magen David Adom, by planting trees. These acts of care and protection for Israel's physical well-being have been essential, and now, thank God, Israel is strong. So now, thank God, we can broaden the scope of our attention and give equal care to the neshama of Israel, to the soul of the Jewish state, to the spiritual well-being of our homeland. When we offer the Mishaberach prayer for healing each week, we ask that God will grant rifuat hanefesh u'rifuat haguf, healing for the soul and healing for the body. Good people, the Jewish character of the Jewish state is being tested. And so we have to step into this hard conversation. The strong bridge between Israel and diaspora Jewry is being shaken. If an Israel-loving congregation like ours doesn't know all about it and care all about it and do something about it, then I don't know who will. Earlier this summer, with the help of CIJA, dozens of Canadian rabbis from across the Jewish spectrum wrote an open letter to Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think I'll read it in part. We are writing as a group of rabbis reflecting the broad spectrum of Jewish practice in Canada, including Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, and Reconstructionist congregations. While we are diverse in our political and religious views, we are united in our passion for Israel, our love for Israelis, and our unshakable commitment to the security and the prosperity of the Jewish state. In this context, we are writing to convey our profound disappointment and frustration regarding the Ministerial Committee for legislation's decision to advance a bill that bans government agencies from recognizing conversions performed within Israel. And I want to note that conversions performed under the auspices of Reform and conservative rabbis outside of Israel are absolutely recognized by the state. In addition to the serious challenges this decision poses to rabbis and Jews by choice alike, it is a significant setback to Jewish religious pluralism in the world's only Jewish homeland. The letter continues, we are no less disappointed by the Israeli cabinet's recent decision to quash the one wall for one people compromise agreement regarding the Kotel. Just as every Jew should feel they have a physical home in Israel, if they need or desire it, every Jew should feel they have a spiritual home in our ancestral and holy land. We ask that you take immediate steps to reverse these worrisome decisions. We believe in Jewish unity, not uniformity. We are an indivisible people, which is why we are deeply concerned by these and any other actions that unnecessarily foment division within Amcha, that is, the Jewish people. And it is signed by dozens of Canadian rabbis, including myself. And you can endorse it too, by the way. If you'd like, you can go to our website or to CJA's website, and you can sign your name to such a letter. In 2 weeks' time, I'll be meeting with members of Knesset here in Toronto, and you can bet that these themes will come up, these questions will be asked. Lema'an Sion lo echesheh. For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent. Ulema'an Yerushalayim lo eshkot. And for the sake of Jerusalem, I will not be still. These are the words of the prophet Isaiah some 2,700 years ago. This is the pledge of every lover of Israel still today. The prophet says, I will not be silent, I will not be still until justice emerges resplendent and Israel's spiritual triumph blazes like a flaming torch. We at Holy Blossom take Ahavat Yisrael very seriously, a love of Israel, expressed in so many ways. In his 1948 book, Israel and the World, Martin Buber claims that when Isaiah speaks of justice, he isn't thinking about institutions, but of you and me, because without you and me, the most glorious institution becomes a lie. The modern state of Israel is a most glorious institution. God forbid it becomes a lie. Let us expand our mission of Ahavat Yisrael. We say in our congregational statement of identity that we recognize and celebrate Israel as the center of the Jewish world. The relationship between Israel and diaspora Jewry is one of partnership and shared destiny. We at Holy Blossom feel close to Israel and its growing reform movement. We share in Israel's joys and sorrows. We are proud of her many accomplishments, and we worry for her security. We hold a wide range of views on her social, religious, and political issues, and encourage the expression and respectful exchange of these views. And finally, we state, we encourage our congregants to provide tangible support for Israel through investments and donations. We encourage our congregants to travel to Israel for tourism, study, volunteerism, leadership, and aliyah. Why are we called upon to step forward, to defend our own religious values, our own religious rights, not only for the sake of liberal Jews, but for the sake of the future of the Jewish people and the future of the Jewish state. In the Proclamation of Independence, the penultimate paragraph, Israel says, "Our call goes out to the Jewish people all over the world to rally to our side in the task of immigration and development, and to stand by us in the great struggle for the fulfillment of the dream of generations, the redemption of Israel." I don't know of any other country which includes in its founding document a call to diaspora communities for help in shaping its future. This speaks to the unique and treasured relationship between the State of Israel and world Jewry. They are calling upon us. They are inviting us, demanding that we participate. True, we do not have a vote, but we do have a voice, and we are duty-bound to use it, to express our loyalty as well as our concern for the State of Israel. It's a risk saying these things to you. God forbid you should hear these words and step back. If that's the response, then forgive me. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha. I have misspoken. If, God forbid, your response to these truths is to distance yourself from our beloved Israel. But I believe that because I know you, and because I know how deep runs your love for Israel, because I know how you give to Israel, how you travel to Israel, how you look to Israel, how you read about Israel, how you have relatives in Israel, how you do business with Israel, how you volunteer for Israel. Because I trust you in this way, I can say these things to you on this holy night. This year we have not one, but 3 congregational trips to Israel. Some of us are leaving in just a month's time to participate in the UJA's centennial anniversary trip. I look forward to being there with many of you. Our teens are going for spring break to Israel. And Cantor Meisner is leading a 3rd trip in celebration of Israel's 70th birthday in the spring. It's not too late to sign up. And our director of education pointed out to me that one week in October, 4 nights of that week, we have Israel-centric programming. On Sunday night, the 22nd, Dr. Ilan Ezrahi will speak reflecting on what we've learned 50 years since the Six-Day War. On Tuesday, retired Major General Amnon Reshef will speak about what is his vision for a better security for the Jewish state. And then on Wednesday night, I invite you to join me and Rabbi Friedman Cole from Beth Tzedek down the street, and Rabbi Strachler from Sharei Shamayim up the street. The 3 of us have been spending some time together and talking about what we might do with regard to this hard conversation about Israel and diaspora Jewry. So come and join us as we talk about what we talk about when we talk about Israel. And then on that Thursday, the 26th, we'll be very fortunate to welcome Rabbi Shlomo Riskin back to Holy Blossom Temple. He's an Orthodox rabbi from Efrat, east of the Green Line, and the title of his address is Israel and the Jewish People, Reform and Conservative Jews are my partners. God bless him. If what I have said to you tonight excites you, grabs your attention and makes you want to be part of the miraculous Jewish experiment that is the Jewish state of Israel, then you have heard me. We are so blessed, we are so fortunate to live in this rare moment of Jewish history when there is sovereignty in Eretz Yisrael. Hatikva bat shnot alpayim, a hope of 2 millennia, Lihiyot Am Chofshi Ba'artzenu, to be a free people in our land. Am Chofshi, a free people, not only free bodies, but free spirits with religious freedoms to express our Judaism as we will. This Israel is still in the making. Let us do our part to create it. In light of all this, in conclusion, and on behalf of the Temple Board, instead of our usual address for Israel bonds, I ask that you consider the following. When you invest in Israel bonds, understand that the dollars are channeled to support the priorities set by the current Israeli government. Israel bonds are a solid financial investment. They are not a donation, but you can turn them into donations. You can turn a bond into tzedakah by donating it to a worthy cause, like Holy Blossom Temple, or to support any one of the many organizations which promote Reform Judaism in Israel. And I ask that you consider whether or not you invest in Israel bonds. We ask that you consider our sister Zionist organizations to be among the recipients of your philanthropy. And I'll name just 3 of them. It's important that you know them and that you put them on your roster of worthy causes. I know how generous you are. First is Artsa Canada. This is our Canadian Reform Zionist organization. It directly supports Reform Jewish life in Israel and promotes Israel-focused educational programs here in Canada. Second, the Israeli Movement for Progressive Judaism. The IMPJ is the umbrella organization for Reform Judaism in Israel. Among the 50 sister congregations, a handful are large and well-established, but many are less than 20 years old, and they need our encouragement so that they might lay down strong roots and flourish in Israel. Third is the Israel Religious Action Center. If you don't yet know about it, you will be proud to learn of it. The Israel Religious Action Center is the advocacy wing of the Reform movement in Israel. They have a brilliant team of lawyers who take cases sometimes all the way up to the Supreme Court to protect the religious freedoms of all Jewish Israelis and many Arab Israelis as well. The Israel Religious Action Center hotline receives calls from across the country and from across the spectrum of religious observance. And finally, I ask that every one of us, every single member of this flagship Reform congregation, become a card-carrying member of Artsa Canada. For just $36, you will earn yourself representation within the World Zionist Congress. These votes are very important. They ensure that Reform Jewish voices are heard, that a pluralistic agenda is set at the tables of diaspora-Israel relations. You can become a member of Artsa Canada by simply checking off the Artsa box on your annual Holy Blossom membership, or by following a link noted on the Artsa Canada postcard that we put in with your tickets for the first time this year. Check your envelopes, it's probably still there. By becoming a member of Artsa Canada, you will receive periodic emails to stay informed about urgent matters which both advance and threaten the cause of pluralism for world Jewry. I thank you for expanding your love for Israel, which I know is there. Expanding it so that there is room for a particular bond with the small but growing Reform movement in Israel. A recent survey tells us that 34% of Israeli Jews say that progressive Reform Judaism is the Judaism that they identify with the most. And so our movement must grow to make a home for them. As a leading Reform congregation of the diaspora, as a congregation filled with so many Ohavei Yisrael, lovers of Israel, we must step forward to ensure that religious freedoms are protected and supported across the spectrum of Jewish life. Lema'an Sion lo echeshe. For the sake of Zion, we will not be silent. Ulema'an Yerushalayim lo eshkot. And for the sake of Jerusalem, we will not be still, not until her justice emerges resplendent and her spiritual triumph like a flaming torch.